but you know you left something in there. Your hardest fight of the career.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one.
Hey guys, this is John Anik from the UFC. You're watching the Fight Week Show. Please subscribe, not now, but right now. Subscribe to the Fight Week Show. We'll see you guys on the road soon.
What's happening, fight fans? How are you guys doing? It's been a mad weekend for sports this weekend. I mean, incredible weekend for sports. But we got Impa Kasanganay here joining us tonight. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's a pleasure to have you on our platform. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And
You.
we want to talk MMA with you and you know, a bit about your career as well. Just shine a little bit of light on your career and get our audience to know something about you.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. No, it's an honor.
Thank you
so
very much. Thank you very much. First of all, I just wanted to ask you, for people that don't know you, can you tell our guys, our audience, a little bit about yourself so they know exactly who you is.
For sure. So thanks for having me on. My name is Impa Kasanganay. I'm a professional fighter. I'm Congolese American. I was born in the United States. Parents are from Congo and Central Africa. I go by a fight named Tshilobo. Right. It's a name
Yeah.
to honor my grandparents and my culture, my family, but also my faith. So such a mighty warrior under God. I fought, I guess you say, 6 fights with the UFC, 2 other contender series, 4 in the UFC. Fought once an Eagle, and recently I won on ex-MMA card. I love motorcycles, I love farms, I love traveling, and I love every part of fighting you could think of, from fighting itself to training to being in the corner to learning about like the ins and outs of the fight industry. So I love what I get to do, and I love having moments like this. Whether it's speaking with journalists. I'm the oldest of 3, and I'm the first person in my family born outside of the Congo. So,
Wow, that's so dope. So dope. And thank you for sharing that with us and our audience. I wanted to ask you, I mean, you just came off that last win against Jared Gooden.
mm-hmm.
What was that like? What was that like going through that fight with him? Because that was a good fight. That was a top fight.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Jared Gooden, much respect to him, great opponent. Like, as far as one of the better fighters I fought, he's definitely up there. Maybe one of the best fighter. I fought him, Raymond, like those guys that I fought, Maki Patola. Like, Jared Gooden's one of the best fighters I've had the opportunity to fight so far. And you can see in his record, 20-7, young guy, 28 years old, and he's fought that many fights already. Tough guy, and it was awesome. It felt great to be able to go out there and dominate and get the fight finished in the first round. I was hearing a lot about people saying the fight's going to be a banger, right? The fight's going to be a banger, the fight's going to be this. And I told myself, just watch, you'll see. I'm going to dominate this fight, finish this fight. And I wanted to make it seem like I wanted to show that there are definitely levels to it, right? There are points to the team that I'm with at Kill Cliff Fight Club, the coaches that I have in my corner, Coach Nick Lenz, Peter, Coach Greg Jones, my coach Henry Hook, all my coaches at Sanford or Kill Cliff Fight Club now. And all the preparation and work that we've been doing that I was able to do was going to show that I'm at a higher level. And for myself, and that I can go out there and dominate and move forward. I just want to give God the glory and say thank you. And it wasn't like, oh man, I was surprised, but I really wanted to go out there and just dominate and move forward.
Wow, fantastic. What's it like competing in, say, the UFC? You've been in big promotions with the UFC versus like the Eagle FC, where you've also been as well. What's that process like, transitioning and going through a promotion like that to a promotion like the Eagle FC?
So the UFC was very professional. The UFC had everything planned out ahead of time. Great communication. Obviously, a larger pool of fighters. Eagle is brand new, and I believe Khabib and their team are going to do well. I think they just got to get some things figured out as far as logistics, when they're going to have their shows. I think they could do a better job as far as communication. Right? It was hard to reach certain people on fight week and things like that.
Right.
And I, whether it's access to the sauna room, for when I fought, it was locked, so I couldn't get in, and I ended up missing weight that fight. But having everything done professionally, the overall experience, though, I think it'd be something great. I think that the UFC just knows how to. They've been doing it for longer, right?
Yeah.
The UFC's been doing it for longer, so the UFC has all that. That's behind the scenes. Like the whole staff, like super respectful, able to talk to, easy to work with. And same with Eagle. And a lot of the staff members were great. You know, it was just harder to reach people, especially at like the pivotal moments. So just like a note that they could take is that if you go to a hotel, make sure the sauna rooms are open, so that all fighters have a fair opportunity to make weight. That communication with like a certain team, like the UFC passes out a schedule, which I think is really helpful, and that could be helpful. But I'll shout out to the last show that I followed on XMMA, super professional. And, like, they had everything down to a T, where I needed to go, where I needed to be. They had proper shuttles and communication. Like when I was with Eagle, it was harder to get to the venue because we were waiting on a certain shuttle that finally eventually came. Even on fight day, you know, opponents left before we did, and they call us down at the wrong times. You know, you learn from that, but it's also how you prepare. Those are like the little things, I think. Eagle, or not Eagle, XMMA did an amazing job having a rehydration table right after weights. You don't see that a lot in the small promotions, quote unquote small promotions. But that the UFC does an amazing job. Like the UFC's whole nutrition team, from Nicole, Charles, everybody, like Clint, they have a whole rehydration process, and they have the funds and the money to do that. But it's cool when you see a promotion like XMMA make the effort as they did with Pedialyte, Gatorade, rehydration snacks, right for the fighters. Like you could tell they're thinking about the fighters and what they want for us. And I think that all the matchups were just and fair. And that, you know, guys who came in the fight knew that they're going to get in the fight with to be judged properly. And you don't see that in every organization. So it's just cool. I mean, there's so many things to take away. And I think the cool thing, I guess, you know, the UFC does well is that you have opportunity to fight pretty consistently, bigger fighters, bigger paychecks. It'd be kind of cool though, like how in other promotions you could have your sponsors back in the UFC. So it's always something, right? Like you want sponsors, but you're in the UFC. You want to fight in other promotions where you can use your sponsors, but you want the bigger paychecks. You want the communication, but Eagle has a great studio. Everything was centrally located. You have Khabib's face on it, so it's all different. So it's kind of funny when I think about it. Everything has its good and bad. So
there's pros and cons to it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Look, many know you from fighting, especially that fight with Joaquin Buckley, right? It's got to be difficult seeing like all that highlight going around and that. But the question that I wanted to ask you, because obviously you was on the losing end of it, but the question I wanted to ask you was, how tough was it to, you know, mentally get over all of that to be able to get back in the cage and compete at the highest level that you know and you believe in your own set of skills, you know, to go out there and compete at the highest level? You know, how much effort did it take for you to, you know, to get over that situation right there?
Well, I'm sorry, there's a car honking outside. I'm in to visit my family in North Carolina for the weekend, but two parts, I guess. You know, it's actually not tough seeing the highlights. I was actually sitting on the UFC Austin card when I was with my teammates. I was in Gregory Rodriguez when they won their last fights. And Buckley was fighting me. I was actually in the room right across from him. And it never bothered me. You know, I even the day after, I was just ready to get back to it. I knew I have a lot of peace when it comes to fighting. My goal is to be the best. My goal is to like really, really dominate and be back in the UFC, do well. But to get back to it, it didn't bother me at all. I wanted to be at a better gym. I wanted to be with better training partners. That's why I found that Kill Cliff Fight Club, the formerly Sanford MMA, because I remember before I moved down to Florida from North Carolina, I said I wanted better training partners. I need people who are going to be there consistently, people who are going to be there to fight, people who are going to be there to show up every single day. I didn't have that in North Carolina, but when I came down to Florida, that's what I got. And, you know, just fighting Buckley was just confirmation of that. So I was kind of grateful that it happened because when I think about it, because it allowed me to really know I have to go get better for my life. And to get back in the cage, it wasn't hard. I wanted to get back in like the next month, but I had to stay out because of protocol. Like I always say, I'm on my own warrior's path, right? And seeing the highlight, yes, I'm on the opposite end of it as far as like the negative part, but it did help me grow. You know, I got a lot of recognition, and it helped me become a better man. Because getting knocked out like that really taught me how much focus it takes to dominate at the highest level. And that's what's helped me till this day. That makes me, before I never took a rep off, before I never took, a day where I was like, I'm not going to train harder. Now it's like even more like, how do I, even within those sessions, how do I plan? How do I prepare? And what kind of partners do I go with? Am I going to pick the partners that I can just get after and beat them up? Or am I always with the partners that challenge me, like Phil Haas, like Gregory Rodriguez, like Delano Taylor, Jason Jackson, Logan Story, anybody that's going to help me get better? That's what I want to work with. So,
for sure.
And with that, it's never been a thing where it was hard to get back in there because I always known I'm on my warrior path. I think that a lot of fighters, I've actually had a good amount of people, like 20 plus people come up to me and said they don't know that they'd be fighting after a moment like that. I think if we get caught up in our moments, that we get lost. You can't get caught up in the moment and not look forward to the future. For me, it was a moment with my career for sure. And I always tell people this: I'll be back in the UFC. I'll be champion. So always replay that highlight. The day that I do get the title, when they put the belt around my waist, replay that too. So it's one of those things that I commit to. Become champion. I love it. I'm grateful. It's a redirection on my path. And man, I'm happy for Buckley too, because his whole life changed. He's doing well, he's doing better. He takes care of his family, grandma, kids. So it's cool to see another brother just doing his thing.
For sure. Yeah, man. And that's a fantastic take. A really, really good outlook to have at it. And a lot of our viewers, upcoming fighters can definitely take a leaf out of that book that you just gave us some gem out of there. So thank you very much for that. I just wanted to touch back on something you mentioned just now. You have 2 wins via the Contender Series.
Yeah.
To the UFC. You just mentioned you want to be back in the UFC. Do you think you're going to take that path back to the UFC, like maybe going for Contender Series again, or is there a different path that you're thinking?
That's a good question, and it's funny because somebody asked me, would you go back to Contenders? I'm like, God has a plan for everybody, right? And if my plan is to be back in Contender Series, why not? Like, I'm not too big of a person to fight on the Contender Series again. I know
absolutely.
Anytime I step into a fight, I'm going to claim that victory. Right? That's my focus. That's my mindset. That's my how I prepare. And it's like, why not? If that's the opportunity that's been blessed and presented in front of me, because you say no. There's a saying too, like every opportunity is a great opportunity, but not every opportunity is for me. But if it is an opportunity for me, I'm going to take it full force. Yeah. And I don't see what the big deal of me fighting the Contender Series again is. If that's what God has for me, if they call me and they say, hey, you want to fight Contender Series next Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays from now, because one, I love to fight. that's I love to fight. And if you're going to tell me there's a fight to be had, whether it's tomorrow, tonight, today, yesterday, this weekend, outdoors, indoors, there's a fight, I'm there. So, and now I get to get paid for it for free. Come on, to go fight somebody. I'm grateful, and the UFC team, they've been cool, they've been great. And whether it's an 85 or 70, 205 or heavyweight, like if you say you're gonna sign that contract, we're gonna fight. I'm ready to go. And my agent always tells me that keep your ear to the ground and take it. Because like, why would you turn it away? Like if that's opportunity, like for me to go back in, take advantage of the opportunity back in the UFC, fight the best fighters in the world, become champion. Why not write my own story? If I do it like everybody else, then it's just a cheap copy of originality, and that's not what I want to be. I want to be special, man. And if that's what it takes, is what it takes. I fought my second fight in the Contender Series, and I won both of them. But my second fight in the Contender Series, I fought in my debut like 8 days later, 9 days maybe.
Wow.
8 days, 8 or 9 days later. So it's like, and I won. It'd be pretty cool if I look into that same weekend and then go dominate and move forward to moving up in the rankings. I mean, money cometh. It says in the Bible. So I know people aren't big about like the UFC contracts, contender contracts, whatever. Like, I'm gonna make my money inside outside the UFC, like whether it's personal training, business, other things that I'm working on. When it comes down to fighting, I want to be the best. So if the Contender Series is out there and they're ready for me to fight, just call me.
Got you. Um, Talking about how much you like fighting, because you just told us,
But
the
yep,
love for the fight game,
yeah.
that you've got. Can you tell us the hardest fight, that you left something in that octagon, the hardest fight that you won, but you left something in there, your hardest fight of the career.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. Ah, the hardest fight. Mm, oh man, I think hardest. So it's when I fought Raymond Magabadelia from an Eagle.
Right.
I first fight outside the UFC. Whole prep for it. I never missed weight. I wouldn't have. You know the and all the behind the scenes, like the sauna room wasn't open, all that stuff. But when it came down to the fight itself, I didn't fight necessarily how I needed to. I probably could have stepped off and won the striking. But we wrestled and grappled the entire time. And it wasn't like a conditioning thing. I wasn't tired. Like you can watch the fight again. Like he broke early. But to
Right.
learn and know that, coming with Coach Jones and Coach Lenz and all the coaches I've had at Sanford at the time, now Kill Cliff Fight Club, there was so much surrounding that fight and getting back into the cage after being cut from the UFC and all that. I remember we scrapped and scrapped and scrapped and scrapped and scrapped the entire time. It's just effort, effort, effort. And I believe I won that fight. I dropped him, and I know I did. I didn't get the decision.
Mm.
But it was like one of those fights where you won the fight, but you didn't get the decision. And
Yeah.
when I finished that fight, I remember right at the end, because I remember the judges were being like taking their time. It was that organization. I was an Eagle. Raymond trained with Khabib's dad, and and Khabib and all those guys. And I remember I was like, to come here, fight a guy in his home turf, and whatever. Like I remember before they're taking this time right before they answered for the call for the split decision, right?
Mm.
I told myself, if this is a fight that I lost by decision, I'm gonna keep my head held high, because I knew in that fight I gave it everything that I had. I could have fought better. I could have fought um, with a cleaner, technique.
Yeah.
But to fight somebody who's been doing it since he was young,
Mm.
who's a champion in the world, one of the better fighters in the world, like one of the best fighters I've ever fought. And though they say I lost the decision, I know I won that fight. That was one of those fights where I'm like, man, like a lot of me grew from that. And if I didn't have that fight, I don't know if I would ever finish Jared. It just made me want to get back in the gym,
Yeah.
commit, become the best version of myself. And like, it took something out of me. Like I think I left a part of me in that cage, as far as like part of my soul, in a
Yeah.
good way. Like not like
Yeah.
he ripped that out of me, or I hurt him, or
Mm-hmm.
I was in a negative, angry place.
Mm.
But it did inspire something new. Like I feel like an old me died and the new me was born again after
Right.
that.
Got.
So that's the fight for sure. And much respect
Yeah.
to Raymond.
Yeah, man. Fantastic. Fantastic. You have an incredibly fun style to watch, as a
Thank you.
fight fan. And I just wanted to ask you, where did your journey into MMA begin, and what martial art did you learn first?
So I'm 28 now. I started training when I was 24. Um, since I was a kid, I always liked warrior cultures, but I wasn't allowed to grow up. When I was, being Congolese and
Mm-hmm.
kind of where I come from, it was always about education and the arts.
That's right.
So I never grew up wrestling. I never did any of that. When I started every martial art at the same time. So almost 5 years ago now. Um, I love it. Like I love warrior culture. My dad used to talk about when he was a little kid, like street fights he get into. I used to read about different like Bantu warriors. I would read about gladiators. I read about like David in the Bible, or like the great warriors of the Bible. Like when you think about like Samson or Benaiah, like those warriors always inspired me. It just when I was a student, when I played football in college, like I started playing football my senior year of high school, played in college, and right when I graduated, it was just like I always just loved reading about them. Samurais, SEALs, and things like just like military units. Like those kind of guys, those high speed people.
Mm.
I was drawn to them. So, I guess you could say really all the martial arts that I'm doing now: boxing, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, wrestling, Muay Thai. I started all at the same exact time when I was 24, and literally just walked into a gym where they had them all offered, and then I ended up finding Jimmo 2018, and he had boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, wrestling, and it's like, man, I love them all. Like I love the grittiness of wrestling, but I love the slickness. Muay Thai, I love like the brutality and the way you can cut people up.
Yeah.
But like the beautiful sweeps in the knees. Boxing, I think, is such a cool, and I believe it's one of my favorites for MMA because that range, the way you counter, the way you set things up, the way where you put your feet,
Mm-hmm.
and the sharpness of it. Jiu-jitsu, I think, is beautiful because there's so many ways to submit somebody. There's so many ways to just take somebody out, and it's very, very. It takes a lot of intelligence, I would say. Like the people who do jiu-jitsu at high level are some of the most intelligent people I've met.
Mm.
But it's just like that's how my journey got started. I've always been interested in warrior cultures. I finished college and I saw a fight on TV that said, "This is what I'm doing." When I was little, my mom asked if I could box. She said if I could pay for it on my own, that I could. But
Yeah.
I could have been if I didn't have a job when I was a kid. When I was in college, I had a job. I was working at a restaurant. And I said, man, I'm going to walk into the gym and do this. I stopped training because I had to finish school. I studied accounting and finance. And then when I was working in accounting and finance, I was still going to the gym training. I didn't have my second amateur fight yet. And they were giving me a promotion. And when I was going to get the promotion, they were going back and forth on the time I could leave work. And I'd always leave early so I can go fight, to go train. And when I was told that I couldn't leave at that time, and they also don't come back into work with like black eyes and whatever, I just left. I went to a grocery store, I started bouncing, and I was personal training people. And I decided to focus on my fighting career. And I told my parents if in 2 years I'm not in the UFC at that time, then I'll go get my CPA and become a certified public accountant. But then a year and a half later, after I started training, I got my first fight of the Contender Series. I won. I didn't get the contract, but at that time we knew I was right there. So I'm just grateful for the parents and the family that God's put in my life, the support system, the Logans, everybody. Grateful for Jimmo and all those guys too when I first started training. But it was like, I took that risk, man. I was sitting there and I was like, watch me, I'm gonna go be in the UFC. And little did I know it was harder than I thought it was. But it's one of those things that really, really made me better, and I wouldn't change a thing about it.
You mentioned something when you were mentioning all the different, martial arts skill sets there, and you said something about BJJ specialists being some of the most intelligent people that that you've ever met.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when you're training in jiu-jitsu, what's your favorite submission and why?
Our favorite submission? Oh Lord, that's good. I really, really do like the I call it pistol grip guillotine, where you put your hand on their shoulder, you put their forearm into their neck. I think it's cool because a couple reasons. You submit them, great, but if not, you clinch, go right back to the elbow. I love to stand, I love to be on the ground, but when it comes to jiu-jitsu, I want to just put somebody out right away, make them
Got you. Got you.
Stand up. I think it's one of those positions where I can kind of see what's going on, and if not, I can go, hop my leg over, get right into the DARS, go back to the front headlock. I think it just has a lot of options to it. So I always like the pistol grip guillotine. I think that guys who do jiu-jitsu, they just have a way to create these different pathways, and it makes them think differently. One of my favorite people I've ever trained was Matthew Norman. Doesn't fight professionally, just a super smart guy, works with the bank, but he loves jiu-jitsu. And he would always explain to me how cool it was when I first started training. And we would train together, and he's a beast. He teaches private lessons here in North Carolina. And just the way he would think about martial arts and training, he'd always relate it back to jiu-jitsu. And same thing with other people who do boxing or whatever, but I just think it's super cool how you can control somebody's body the way they do, snap limbs, chokes, get to different pathways. Working with my teammate Phil Hawes, Greg Rodriguez, Delano Taylor, all those guys who are solid jiu-jitsu. Coach Wagner Rocha, just seeing how smart they are and just the way they manipulate the body it's pretty cool, and I aspire to be great at it one day too.
Yeah, man. Oh man. As we start winding down on time now, because I'm very, very conscious, and thank you so much
appreciate you.
for your time, man. You know what I mean? I really, really appreciate your time. I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite, because for example, we just had 278 yesterday, UFC 278, crazy fight. The co-main event was just mad crazy. I was gonna ask you about that, but what's your favorite MMA fight that you've as a spectator that you've seen that you just love that fight. What's your favorite MMA fight?
Ooh, favorite MMA fight. Favorite MMA fight. So I was actually training with him at the time, but Brian Barberina fought Vicente Luque.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and so I was training with Brian at the time. We were teammates, like friends, but not based on the result, but based on how both of them fought. They
Yeah.
both fought like real warriors, like all the way to the end. Um, There's a time in the fight, Barberina like rolled his hands in the air, like kind of like shadow boxed in the air and threw an elbow. It was dirty. Vicente obviously went with the knee, but like even in the fight, like just throwing down back and forth, and it's kind of cool to see like the brand of style those two guys brought into the cage was one of my favorite fights that I got to see live, witness, and be a part of, and
Yeah.
just overall. Scott Holtzman, we used to train together too. It's my bro. He fought a guy in New Jersey,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the guy's name, but it was nonstop. Like punches were flying by the face. Like just, and you could see it, and just talking to him about it, and the way he knocked him down knocked him out was crazy because the guy couldn't even get back to the stool. So
Man.
those two fights really stick out to me, and I think it's because they're also personal.
Yeah.
They're two guys like I really really love and I care about.
Gotcha.
But it was but that Vicente and Marina fight was nasty. Like it was just the crowd was like, oh my gosh, the way they threw down, the way they fought, the heart that they both showed, going for finishes the entire time. It takes a special person to do that, and it was cool to see.
Yeah, man. Before I go out, what did you make of the co-main event yesterday with Luke Rockhold? Do you think he gave a good account for himself and he hung it up in the right way? Because I feel like Rockhold didn't live on his own terms and he got to do that this time. What did you make of it? And I was going to ask you about the main
Yeah.
event as well with Usman and Leon Edwards.
Okay. Cool. So I'll be honest. I didn't see the fights because I actually fell asleep. I wrote
Right, got you.
like a 12-hour trip, and I was a little sleepy, so I fell asleep after I saw teammate Jared Gordon win his fight.
Right,
But I
right,
watched
right,
the highlights though,
right.
and I trained with Luke a little bit in the same gym because being at Kill Cliff,
Yeah.
it's really really cool to see somebody go out on their own terms. And watching the highlights, you could tell he threw down. I love the part where he smeared the blood on Costa's face,
Yeah,
like
that was
two,
crazy, man.
yeah, two warriors just like letting it all out, still fighting hard but having fun. And
Yeah.
it was cool to see, cool to see him, and he helped me out. Like I got some for advice
Mm-hmm.
as far as training, seeing somebody who's been through it, been at the top, talked about he's had low moments in his life. I think there's no better feeling for like a warrior to go out on your own terms, whether
Yeah.
he won or he lost, but
Yeah.
he gave it his all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Costa always remember him. And Coach Strout would say this. He's like, whether you won or lost a fight doesn't always matter,
Yeah.
right? And that's true to sense to me.
Yeah.
But it's if the person remembers you. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you lost that fight, make sure that guy remembers you. The way Luke fought, he'll always remember him. So
Yeah.
I'm happy for that.
Okay. What about the main event?
Oof.
We just crowned a new welterweight of the champion.
Yep.
Back here in England as well. It's good
Yeah.
to Leon Edwards has been through so much on. You can say he's the most unluckiest fighter in the world. I mean, throughout the whole pandemic situation,
Yeah.
and to go out there, get dominated the way he did, and he found the finish. I want to give, because a lot of this didn't get said enough. I want to give a lot of credit to his corner. I know you said you didn't say, but his corner was they gave him a hell of a talking to.
Did
I
they?
mean, they were literally slapping him, yanking him off the stool. It was crazy, and this
Wow.
was going into the fifth.
I like that.
Before he was able to pull out the win.
Oh man. Well, hearing that it makes sense because uh, so this is what I heard. Correct me if I'm wrong. Leon had a good first round, right?
Yep. Yep.
He took Usman down.
Yep.
Okay. So Usman's a true champion. Been blessed to be in the same room as him too. Carries himself professionally, fights hard. Obviously, he's done a great job. Considered one of the greatest of all time. Considered one of the greatest welterweights. So respect to him, and I guess in a sense, a teammate, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, different gym, but just like that's what fighting is, though, right? It's like saying, if you watch my fight with Buckley, and I can point out and be like, hey, I had a potential to win. I almost won, but I got knocked out. I didn't win. Like I remember talking to Buckley the next day at the airport, and he was hurt. He said there's some cuts and stuff, but it doesn't matter, right? You could dominate somebody for 10, 12 rounds, but when it comes down to fighting, it's like we have refs, we have this, and that's why I call it like a lifestyle, not a sport.
Yeah.
That's a warrior culture because yes, you have refs, yes, you have this, but in a real fight, it's going to stop when the one who's victorious finishes it.
Yeah.
And respect to Usman, right? And Leon's corner, but the people in your life in your corner are so important too because they push you when you might not be able to push yourself, right? And for him to come out with the finish shows that he kind of lived up to his fight named Rocky. He fought all the way to the end.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
He fought all the way to the end, and it's like, in respect, it's actually met Leon coming through. I guess at some airport, I think in Texas, and I was like, well,
yeah,
it's cool to see like that I ran into here now. But what I say about that is this: it's like Usman was going to win probably by decision if he didn't finish Leon at some point.
Yeah.
Even in the last few seconds. But it says a lot about what a fighter actually is when you fight all the way to the end.
Yeah.
You fight all the way through that. And that doesn't, I'm not saying that Usman wasn't fighting all the way to the end. But Leon made that choice because Leon could be like, dang, he lost his fight by decision. And he never stopped believing. He never stopped pushing. And even if he did, he never stopped showing by faith like that the technique works.
Yeah.
And if you remember before the fight, they showed a highlight of Leon hitting the elbows on the combination and finishing with the left high kick.
Yep.
And it was interesting to see that he finished that and watching where Usman's hands were at the time. I'm not saying, like Usman said, champions mess up and then they come back even with the vengeance. So I think it's going to be an amazing fight. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And we'll see what happens with that. Leon knows that no matter what, he can fight to the end, which says a lot about a man. Like, I think that fighters really inspire people of the world, from Muhammad Ali all the way to Leon Edwards last night.
Yeah.
Because people watch what you do when times are tough, right? Like, people watch what you do after you get knocked out. People watch what you do if you lost rounds 1 through 4. But what did you do in that last round? Because that's what's going to be said. I mean, yeah, you could say Usman was going to win by decision, but he didn't. Leon fought all the way to the end. He fought as a man, and he found a way to get the victory. So much respect to him, and it's congratulations to the United Kingdom to have your champion. You know, so it's good. He needs to sit on that, own it. Hope he gets right back in the gym and improves. But we'll see. That's what makes fighting so beautiful, because it comes down literally to the wire, and you can never say. It's like saying like, hey, like 2 kids are in a street fight, and I was going to beat you up because I'll hit you, but you knock them out, you knock them out. So it's a testimony, I think, a good lesson for people to realize, like, no matter what, you keep fighting.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for your take there, and look, you've been so generous to us with your time. I want to thank you for that. What do you have coming up? Do you have anybody to thank, to promote merches, to promote your sponsors, all of that? The floor is yours. Please plug what you got coming up.
Man, shoot. No sponsor anything to think about right now at the top of my head, but I just want to say thank you to XMMA for having the last fight card. You know, the fight again soon. I believe they have a card coming up when it's October.
Okay.
I didn't think my name's running in there somewhere. No opponent yet. Hey, UFC, call me. Ready to fight short notice. I'll fight tomorrow, fight next week. Even if it is Contender Series. I mean, I'm here to fight, here to take advantage of opportunity. I think that sometimes, especially fighters, teach a lot to kids. Like, we're obligated, not obligated. Don't get too cocky to miss opportunity for yourself to change your life. I'd fight the Contender Series again. And if you're a kid watching this, or a younger person, or a young fighter watching this, just don't get so caught up in like, oh, I'm not fighting for $200. You never know. That could be your first time you knock somebody out and you figure it out. And then one day you're fighting for $2 million, $200 million. So I don't have too much of a shout out for myself, but I could just maybe leave you with that. Take advantage of opportunities that are there for you, and truly be a fighter, and your money will come. I know we all talk about it'd be great to be paid more as a fighter. Remember, that's what you are too. You're a fighter, and you keep fighting. You find ways to reinvest. You make it. Take advantage of opportunity, and like you could be like in the same position as like my teammate Delano Taylor fighting for $1 million in his next fight. Could be the same position as people like Michael Chandler, who maybe if he waited for the UFC to call him, he never would have. But he dominated and fought in Bellator, and now look where he is now in the UFC. Sometimes everybody's path is different. So, just shout out to everybody. Shout out to all the major organizations. Call me, Bellator, UFC. I'm here to fight. So that's all I got to say. And thank you, for having me on the fight.
Thank you so much, man. We definitely appreciate your presence on our platform, and hopefully maybe a few weeks, a few months down the line, we can give you a shout. Maybe even just to come and break down the fight card with us or something,
You let me know anytime. You have my contact information.
Yeah,
you let me know anytime. I'd love to.
Would love to get your perspective on watching a fight in real time and breaking down some stuff that us novices, us civilians, that's what we are. We're just fans with civilians, but you guys are the real warriors in there that get the job done. So it'd be nice to get a perspective on some of the cards that are coming up down the line. So yeah, we'll keep in touch with you.
And I'll be back in the UK too, so I'll let you know. We'll talk privately.
Oh yeah,
maybe we can watch it live together or something.
Yeah, man, that'll be fantastic, man. That'll be absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much. And we've been speaking to Impa Kasanganay on the Fight Week show. Thank you very much for your time, and on to the next video. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Yo, guys, this is Adrian Yanez telling you to use those handles. Hit, click, like, and subscribe. Fuck yeah, dudes. If y'all don't do it, man, fucking catch the hands, bro.